I'm in the process of creating some seamless patterns for Tumbler designs for Mother's Day, and I just wanted to take the opportunity to show you how this is done. I start out by opening a new file, and it's a blank file. I'm just going to show you the size and dimensions of it. So it says here 2790 pixels at 72. That's not what we want. So we want to change this to inches, and we want 9.3 inches wide by 8.2 inches high and 300 pixels per inch. So it should be about exactly the same size. It was just larger at 72. So we're just going to hit OK here. Shouldn't change the size of it whatsoever. Just when it's saved, it'll be 9.3 by 8.2 at 300 pixels per inch. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, we're going to click on over here to Adobe Illustrator. I use Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop together all the time. So this is a file that I downloaded off of Vecteezy. Vecteezy is a site where you can go get all kinds of vector graphics, and by vector graphics I mean that you can resize them without any distortion. Just going to haul my layers palette over here so you can see what I got here. So in this there's a clip group. We want to get down into the actual elements of the group. So the rectangle here constrains the proportion, constrains the what you can see in this file. So if I delete this, I'm just going to select the rectangle and hit delete. So you can see now that you can see all the edges of the flowers. I don't really like how this jaggedy design is here. So this must have another clip on each of the flowers. So I want a white flower and a blue flower. They're all pretty much the same, so I can take them over to Photoshop and resize them, rotate them, do whatever I want. So I'm going to get a white one. Let's see. So when you expand that, you see that there's another drop down here, so it's another group. If we select this, we get the entire flower. So let's hit Control C to copy. Now we're going to go over here into Photoshop and hit Control V to paste. So when I'm done, I'm going to have a seamless pattern. It's going to have flowers all the way around it, but it's going to be seamless so that when you cut out and apply your image to a 20-ounce tumbler, you won't be able to see the seam. So I got the white one. I'll go back into my image here. Let's see, let's get a blue one. Hit Control C. You see this has a bit of a shadow on it. I'm not sure how that's going to work. I'm just going to copy it, Control C, go back into Photoshop and paste it. Oops, hit enter to make that. Okay. Okay, so we got the shadow. It looks okay. We're going to add a background layer to this now. I'm just going to hit Control A. I'm going to hit Control Shift N, and that creates a new layer. And I'm just going to call that background. And I'm going to give this a gradient. Okay, I'm going to haul that gradient down underneath the flowers here now. Just going to haul my layers palette over here so you can see what we got. Let's just pull that down beneath the flowers. And you can see the little haze, the little halo around this blue flower. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to go back into Illustrator and take that without the haze on it. So go back to Illustrator. Let's see. We're in this group. Let's move this over. So if we expand this group, we see that the haze is right here. So I'm just going to select that and delete it. So we're left with just the flower in the group. So I'm going to hit select that layer, group, and hit Control C. Go back into Photoshop and paste it. And there, we don't have that shadow on it anymore. Okay, so I'm going to make a couple copies of this. Hit Control C and Control V. V, V, V. Okay, so that gives us 4 of these blue flowers. So I'm going to just, on layer 7 here, I'm going to hit Shift. Actually, I'm going to hit Control T. The Constrain Proportions button is turned off. I'm going to click on it so that is turned off. That means that when you size down the width, it also sizes down the height, so it's proportionate. So I'm just going to haul that down. These are little forget-me-not flowers. They're kind of cute. Okay, so in making a seamless image, what you want to do is you want to get all your important elements close to the center. And because what we're going to do an offset, and it's going to split it right down the middle, and that's what's going to appear on each side of your image, so that when you wrap the image around the tumbler, it meets up, it will be seamless if you cut it out right. Okay, so we got this one. We'll do the same with this one. Make it a little bit bigger. We don't want them all exactly the same. That's the whole point, is to make different ones. Okay. Grab layer 5. We'll make that one a tiny bit bigger again, but smaller than the original. Give it a little twist. So to give it a twist, you just hover your mouse close to the corner and you'll get that double-sided bent arrow. So you just, when you got that, you can click your mouse button and just rotate it however you like. So I want to have it a little different than the other ones. Okay, and next we'll grab layer 4, and that one looks pretty good. You can make it bigger, make it smaller. Let's make it a little bit smaller. Okay, so that's our blue ones. Now we'll grab the, I don't know what this is on this layer 3. If I turn the visibility off and on, it's an empty layer. I'm just going to delete it. Okay, this is the layer we're looking for with our white flower. We're going to leave that one as is. I'm going to select layer 2, hit Control C, Control V, and hit Control V 4 or 5 more times. Okay, so each one, okay, so let's get each flower. Layer 11, we'll make that a little smaller. Layer 10, we'll make it a little smaller again, but not as small as before. Layer 9, smaller, way smaller. So it's similar to this one, the blue one that we did similar. Okay, and layer 8, size it down another little bit and give it a little rotation. And finally we got this one. It's kind of big. We'll just move it down another little bit. Okay. So now we're going to grab these. We notice we got auto select turned on and layer. So when you click on one of the elements, it automatically selects it. So you can just drag it, move it around wherever you want it. So we got to come up with a nice pattern now to make it look nice. So start by putting the bigger flowers in the back and layering the white and blue on top of one another. Until we get the handy about the whole center of the design filled in with these flowers. So you see that when you drag this, it's underneath that blue one. It's layer 9, so if you want it to go on top, you just drag layer 9 up to the top. And that puts the white flower on top of the blue flower. And we'll do the same with the little blue one here. So you drag that up to the top. So we don't quite have enough flowers. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll select all the layers with the flowers, and you do that by selecting the one at the bottom of the layer palette that contains the flowers, and hit your shift key and click the top one, and that'll select those and everything in between. So what we're going to do now is put that in a group. So we're going to go Control G, and that gives us a group. So we want to make another group like that. So to do that, the easiest way is right click, duplicate group. We don't need to rename it because it's really not important. Now that we've duplicated it, we got one exactly the same as the previous group. We're just going to make sure that that group layer is selected, and if you expand that, you see you have all the same elements inside that as you have in group 1. So select group 1 copy and just drag, oops, sorry, a little important thing to note here. When you're selecting a group and you want to move it as a group, you need to make sure that you change this little button here to group. So now when you select group, it selects everything in the group. Okay. So we don't really want it to be exactly the same, so we'll just give that a rotation by grabbing the little handle. And I think that's good there. We can move it a little bit more. I think we're good. Okay. So now I'd like to choose another one of these blue flowers, but right now I got group selected. So if I click on it, it selects the whole group. I don't want that. I want just this flower. So I need to go back up here and I need to change it from group to layer. So now that when I select the flower, it'll just select the flower. So I'm just going to go Control C and Control V, and that pastes it back into that group I want to put up on top of the other groups. Okay, so I'm going to give this a little rotation. And I also want some more of these little small flowers. So Control C and Control V. And that one goes back in group 1 as well because it pastes to the group that it was copied from. So we just drag that up to the top. We just want it to break it up because we don't want it to look like it's the same pattern. Repeat it. We want it random looking. So now we're going to make another copy of that. Control C, Control V, and just put it there. Okay, I think that's good. So now you see we have 3 separate layers that aren't in a group. We're going to put them in a group. Just hit Control G, and this one is expanded. We're just going to click the little button here to collapse that, and we'll collapse this. Now we want to merge all these groups. So to do that, we'll select 3 groups, right click, and say merge layers. So that takes it out of the group and makes one layer out of it. So the next thing I'm going to do now, I just want to make sure that my background is 100% seamless. I'm going to turn off this layer. I have a layer 1 here with nothing in it. I'm going to delete that. Now that we got the background selected, I'm going to go into Filter, Other, Offset. Now the setting that we have here is 1395 pixels. That's exactly half of the whole entire width of the, because it's 2790 pixels the width. So we'll say OK. So when you do that, you notice that we got a little bit of a line down here. So that wouldn't be seamless. So what we need to do is we need to blur out this line. So to do that, the little finger button here, that's your smudge tool. Sometimes it might have the little raindrop symbol or the triangle. The little finger is the smudge tool. The raindrop is the blur tool. So let's just make this a little bit bigger. Strength is 77. We'll turn that up to 90. So now you just rub over where you see the line there, and you keep doing that long enough, and you'll get that line out of there. And if it doesn't go away real easily, you might want to turn your blur up to 100. And it's still not going away. So what that means is that the edges will match up perfectly on the edge of your tumbler design, but you'll have this little line in the middle. So I'm going to try and do a smudge on that. See if I can just break it up a little. Oh yeah, here we go. Now that's leaving weird designs. I don't like that. I'm going to hit Control Z to undo that. Another way you can do it is you go into Filter, Liquify. Okay, you see this is pretty big. We don't want it that big. We want to move it down to about 340. Looks good. So we just want to make it so that there's no harsh lines. Now this will give a bit of a pattern. I kind of like that. You can keep going until you get exactly what you want, but don't touch your edges, because if you touch the edges, you're going to have to start all over again. And you can drag as much of the pink down into the bottom as you like. And just keep doing that. Just click and drag. And you can adjust the strength and the pressure and the density and whatnot to get the effect that you like. And if you want to do the edges, you can. But you'll have to do another offset, bring it back in here, and then finish it up. And I'll show you what I mean by that in just a sec. If you drag anything off the edge, it's going to screw up your seamlessness. If that's a word, seamlessness. Okay, so we're just going to say OK here. Okay, that gives you a nice bright colorful pattern. But if you go back into Filter, Other, Offset, okay, you got another line here. So we're going to go back into Liquify again, and we're going to get rid of that line. And that should be fairly easy to do this time. Now it shows you, you still see the line a little bit because it shows you what you had originally. So I'm going to turn that off. So it shows Show Backdrop. So just delete that check mark out of that box. And now you can see what you're actually going to have. Now this time, don't touch the edges. We want all smooth lines. We don't want any sharp corners. Now you can go off the top because the top is not going to affect the seamlessness of it. And don't worry, because I'm not going to keep this as a pink. We're doing forget-me-not flowers, which are blue, so we're going to change this to a nice blue that's going to match those flowers or contrast with them nicely. So say OK. Alright, so now if we go back in and do another offset, okay, you can see that your background is totally seamless. So let's turn on these flowers. Okay, so now we're going to make the flowers seamless as well. We're going to put these down the edges of this design, but first we're going to change the color of this background so that it looks good with the forget-me-not flowers. So click on the background. If there's a little lock button here in the corner, just turn that off. Just click it and turn it off. So we're going to put an adjustment layer on this. We're going to click on, I don't know if you can see this or not. Hang on. Right at the bottom here is a little circle with what half filled in. Just click on that, and we want to go Hue Saturation. So when you click on Hue Saturation, it brings up a little dialog box here. And you can either choose to have colorize on. I find colorize sometimes is easier to use because you can find your color a little easier. We want a blue, so we're going to hit colorize. We want to turn the saturation up and the lightness up a little. So right now it's over on the reddish end of it, so we just drag that over until we get something resembling the blue that we want. So that kind of looks, let's turn the saturation up a little bit. Yeah, that's a little bit too much. We can turn it back so that it's toned down a little bit. You just play around with these sliders. There's 3 sliders: hue, saturation, and lightness, until you get what you want. So that's not a bad blue. Let's get a bit better blue. Turn the saturation up. Okay, that's a nice blue. It's not exactly the same as that blue in the Forget-Me-Not flowers, but it's not bad. You can change the, oh, that's kind of pretty. It's very, very light. Okay, so we'll go with that. Now, if you don't want to keep this layer here, you can click on it, right click, and say merge down. That'll apply it permanently to your background. I normally don't do that because I like to reuse some backgrounds in other projects, but you can certainly do that if you like. So now we're going to make the flower seamless as well. So to do that, just click where it says group 2. It's no longer a group, it's just a single layer, but we'll just click on it. And now we'll go back into filter, other, offset, 1395. Okay, say okay. And now when you print this out, if you cut it out perfectly and put it on your Tumbler perfectly, you will have a seamless background. Chances are you may have a little overlap. That's to be expected, but as close as you're going to get. Okay, so the next thing we want to do now, we'll go back into our Adobe Illustrator, and let's see, why don't we choose the whole group now? So to do that, you just click on the top group. You see that we got the little shadows as well. Just we're going to take those and see how they look. We're just going to hit Control C, go back into Photoshop, hit Control V. Now it takes a little while for Illustrator, especially when you got a lot of stuff open. It's saving the file, the recovery information. Now it's available to copy. And we'll go back into Photoshop, hit Control V. It's taking its time. Okay, finally you get little box come up, the paste box. Right now we just want to choose pixels. There's a few different options there of what you can use to paste the layer. You can actually choose Smart Object, and that way every time that you update it in Adobe Illustrator, it will change on your document. That's no good for this purpose, what we're doing here today, so we'll just keep it at pixels. And that pastes a layer that you can actually resize without any distortion. So we get, you see that it goes right to the edge. Certainly not what we want. We just spend all that time doing the seamlessness. So we want to rotate this. So we can either rotate it here with the handle, but we're not going to do that. Control Z. We're just going to hit Control T. And right here where you see the little angle symbol, you just put in 90 degrees, 90, and hit Tab, and it'll swing it around for you. Today, please. Okay. Hit your enter button, or you can also click the checkbox up top there. That applies to transformation. So if we turn this off, this layer, by clicking the little eyeball here, you see that it has not affected your seamlessness at all. So I'm going to haul that down underneath the layer of the flowers on the edges. Okay. And I'm going to move it over a little bit. So just select the one that you got there, the one that you just added, and click your little arrow button. It'll move it over slightly. Hit your Control T first, it might help. Okay. So now you have a seamless design. I'm going to merge these layers down so that it's just one layer, and I'm going to test the seamlessness of it. So again, to test the seamlessness, we go into Filter, Other, Offset. Okay. So you can see there's no line down the center. So right in the center of this document is actually what you're going to have where the two edges of your paper meet up on your tumbler. So it's as seamless as it's going to get. Okay, so, and if you do it the opposite way, it's also seamless. So we're going to just go back and offset it again. I could just hit undo, but okay. So that's our background now for our tumbler. Let's see what was in here. Okay, we're done with this now. Totally done with it. This is the original, one of the original files that I grabbed this image from. And again, I got this off Vecteezy. And Vecteezy is a subscription-based service that you can get. Oh my God, the amount of images I download off of here is unreal. So I'm going to grab this text. See if I can find it. The easiest way to do that is to use your direct selection tool. I'm just going to click on the M. Now you see which one lights up here? That's the text. So you click on it, it's all highlighted. We're going to hit Control C. I'm going to go back into Photoshop, and I'm going to hit Control V and paste those pixels. Okay, it looks a little bit big for a tumbler. You want most of what's on the tumbler to be on the center of the front part of the tumbler that you're looking at. You don't want to have to spin the tumbler around in order to read the message. So we're going to take that down a little bit just by grabbing the handle and moving it down. I think that should be okay. And we can change this text to whatever we want. We can change it to I love you, Mom, or World's Greatest Mom, or whatever you want. You can also put it vertically by spinning around 90 degrees. But for now, I'm just going to leave it as this. This file, by the way, is going to be on my Etsy shop, and from here on out, all my tumbler designs contain two versions, a Word version and a no word version, so you can add your own text. So let's just click the checkbox here to make that stick, the transformation. And you see that it kind of blends into the background. So what I want to do is add a layer style here so that this Happy Mother's Day pops out a bit. So I'm going to select that layer. I'm just going to double click over here on the blank space. And I'm going to add a layer style. So I want a stroke, which is pink. I don't want pink. So I'm just going to go in here. And I'm going to change that to white, I think. Or grab a color out of your design. And add yellow. No, that's ugly. White. White looks pretty good. It's not quite white. It's kind of an off-white. You play around with it until you find a color that you like. You can do blue. Nope, we're not doing that. Let's choose just our off-white color. That makes the text pop out at you a little bit better. So we'll say OK to that. Say OK. That works on actual live text as well. Okay. Alrighty. So now we have our tumbler design. And if you want to save a version with no text, you just click on your layer that you just added and turn the visibility off, and now you have your seamless pattern with no text that you can add your own text to. So I've just added this file to my 20-ounce skinny tumbler mock-up file. I'm just going to zoom it in a little bit so you can see. It's going to make a beautiful, beautiful tumbler. So this file will be on my Etsy shop if you want to purchase it. If you want to subscribe to my channel and click the bell notification, you'll be notified of any new videos or instructional videos or new products that I have available. I also have a new Patreon account. It's very, very new. If you'd like to get all my files, consider signing up to be a mid-level patron. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you take the time to try and create this yourself.